Since Drake's diss track Push-Ups has hit the internet, from Drake himself to some of the biggest names in rap media, many have now put the pressure on Kendrick Lamar to respond as soon as possible, and when you understand why. Although on the surface it may look like Drake is more confident than ever that he'll be able to defeat Kendrick, deep down inside, he's scared that his biggest rival is on the verge of destroying him, and the reason why will shock you. So as Drake's diss track Push-Ups lit the entire hip-hop world on fire as the OVO rapper gave us a performance where not anywhere near career-ending for any of the track's 5 main targets, definitely showed that even with so many artists at once coming at him, Drake will not back down, and while we are yet to see how artists like Future, The Weeknd, and Metro Boomin handle the disses that Drake threw their way, at this point, everybody's eyes are on Kendrick Lamar, as after most of the jabs Drake threw out on the track went his way, it's expected more than ever for Kendrick to come back firing the strongest. Now with this said, despite the way Drake has come at Kendrick Lamar, it's clear that although he was so quick to say just about anything to take him down here, Drake is a little scared to see what Kendrick has coming next at this point, and while he definitely won't admit this, when you look at the way he has been moving since his diss track crashed into the rap world, it's clear that Drake knows that while Push-Ups may have been a success for what it is, it's not going to be enough to take the edge against an MC as skilled as Kendrick, so to make up for his lack of lyrical tricks and presumably things to say that can diminish his image, Drake has devised a much more tactical plan in an attempt to prepare and sabotage Lamar's inevitable response. So when it comes to this plan, the way Drake is executing it has nothing to do with the music he's putting out, but instead revolves around him resorting back to what has been his go-to for instigating feuds, which has of course been social media. Now with all the trolling that Drake's been doing on social media recently, he's not just doing this to taunt artists like Rick Ross and Metro Boomin because he's not that scared of these two, but he's been doing this to create a narrative to his massive following and the entire hip-hop world about the very nature of this beef that in his eyes, if he can portray in the right way, will ultimately help him walk out of this feud defeating Kendrick Lamar. Whether Drake is posting a screenshot from the movie Kill Bill to push the narrative that he is being hunted down by the entire industry, or he's posting Kendrick Lamar's manager as he tries to rile people up to demand a response immediately, as Drake's pen alone can't get him the W over Kendrick, he's now trying to leverage the opinion of the masses to not just make himself look like the victim in this situation, despite the fact that he has been the one dissing everyone who's came at him for years. But most importantly, Drake is trying to turn the tides of this entire beef and get Kendrick to play against him on his own terms. Now in order to pull this off, what Drake has needed to do is seemingly turn people against Kendrick and make them think that he's the one who's scared of Drake as we await a response from him, and as Drake knows that he can't sway the entire culture by himself, he has used some of the biggest figures in hip-hop media as his puppets to begin to push this same idea as well. Now earlier this week, a diss leaked that some people thought was Kendrick Lamar's response to Drake, but after hearing a version of Kendrick who sounded so lifeless and unrefined lyrically, most people put together that this was AI, which was also later confirmed to be the case, but still, despite the facts clearly stating otherwise, this didn't stop Drake and the ring of people some have accused him of having on his payroll at this point by trying to make things look different. From OVO members tweeting that this track is actually AI to one of the biggest voices in hip-hop media as a whole in Mal pushing the idea as well. Drake's been using his own platform and anybody who's a cheerleader of his to not just paint a picture that's favorable for him, but also actually push false narratives about Kendrick that make him look like a fraud. We saw one of the worst attempts at this happen on the day Push-Ups came out as a reference track leaked from former Drake ghostwriter Quinn Miller's friend CJ Francis for the Mr. Morale track N95. And while many people tried to push a narrative that Kendrick may not be the one-of-a-kind lyrical author that we thought he was, this was eventually debunked not just by CJ Francis, but just by doing a few Google searches and seeing that there were leaks of this song from Kendrick's own grasp that have been circulating since the late 2010s, and this leak was said to be from the 2020s. Now in turn of this, multiple Drake reference tracks have been leaked from newer songs like Jumbotron Poppin' Off Her Loss, which was written and performed by Lil Yachty. And as Drake's reputation is once again at stake for doing something in hip-hop that is shamed upon, Drake's turned his plan into even further action as at the center of this all, beyond Drake himself, he is using none other than DJ Academics to push forward all of the agendas that he needs to convince people of in order to win this beef. Now I'm not gonna lie, all of this is honestly a super smart move from Drake and shows just how strategically he approaches these situations, and as by doing such things as sampling Ack on Push-Ups and letting him premiere the official version of this song. More than ever, he has both literally and figuratively the biggest cheerleader on his team that he possibly needs in this moment, as whether you love him or hate him. In hip-hop culture today, Academics is arguably the most popular voice in all of the media. So as Academics is now under the impression that he is a part of this beef with Drake, he is projecting to his massive audience the narratives Drake needs to get across, which we can see firsthand with his posts that are nudging Kendrick for each day he doesn't drop, and after it took Drake almost an entire month to respond to Kendrick in the first place, and Act said absolutely nothing. You can clearly see the picture that Team Drake is trying to paint about Kendrick at this point. So now putting all this together, the reason why Drake is trying to make Kendrick look weak on social media and spread misinformation about him is because he's trying to get him to respond early and presumably in the window of the next 10 days or so, because while Kendrick's diss may be one of the biggest moments in not just hip-hop but modern music history, fortunately for Drake, no matter how crazy this moment will be, he will be protected if it drops in this release window, because whatever Kendrick does is going to be overshadowed by the most popular artist in music right now, Taylor Swift, who is releasing her new album, The Tortured Poets Department, on Friday, April 19th. Now, no matter what you think of Taylor Swift, her albums have been putting up massive numbers, and with the fan base she has who goes out and buys multiple copies of her music in masses, there's a chance that the entire Billboard Top 10 next week is compiled of tracks from this album. So even if Kendrick's diss song did perform amazingly and can somehow work its way up the charts, maybe even all the way to the top 5, no matter what it does unless it goes number 1, which will be nearly impossible, Drake will be able to spin the narrative that it's a failure as it did not perform to the standards that Like That did in the first place. This is also most likely why Drake hasn't dropped push-ups on streaming as well, because it doesn't have to compete with Taylor's new album, and as a result, the diss has still been able to make noise by being leaked in the rap world, but it cannot be compared to the bar that Kendrick, Future, and Metro set when they kicked this entire battle off with Like That, and while it's genius that Drake has thought all this out and is playing the beef in this way, no matter how good of a plan Drake's drawn up, and no matter how convenient it is that the biggest artist in the world will overshadow the biggest hit piece of your career. If it was any other rapper, I'm sure they'd fold under this pressure, but there is almost zero chance that he will be able to shake up Kendrick and force him to make a decision that isn't guided by his own intuition. So going forward with this beef, I think right now, Drake is only going to continue to push Kendrick to come back out of hiding and swing at him, but as Kendrick is just as tactical and battle ready as Drake, I don't think any of this taunting and narrative pushing will faze him, and after waiting out the first week album cycle of Taylor Swift, I'd bet that Kendrick will come out with a response soon after, and now with that, the worst thing can happen for Drake is once again, all eyes will be on him and Kendrick to see how the next move is taken. Even if Drake delivers more peak performances like the one we just saw, the only way he'll win this beef is if Kendrick just chokes, but with Lamar's upcoming Drake diss expected to be a nuclear one by people in the industry, I'd be shocked if Kendrick doesn't seize this moment. Now this diss Kendrick will respond to Drake with won't just be insane in of itself, but this could possibly kick off an entire new era of his career, as many people think it will be the Heart Part 6, and if this ends up leading into an entire new record from Kendrick after this feud, something could be coming Drake's way that's crazier than we could have ever imagined. And as we look back on Like That and see how Drake bit and responded to all of Kendrick's shots, it's starting to become clear that a lot of what Kendrick did on that track wasn't even close to his best work and was merely a trap to draw both J. Cole but most importantly Drake out to battle. And with Cole already out of the equation and Drake responding back by playing on so much of what Kendrick said on this record, while Drake definitely did come with some great jabs, that's for sure, by seemingly validating most of Kendrick's initial thoughts by acknowledging and responding to them, he may have just set himself up for the biggest L of his career without even realizing it. With Drake doing such things as pretty much confirming that he thinks he is our generation's Michael Jackson in his eyes by responding to Kendrick's Prince outlived Mike Jack bar. This could have been the bait that Kendrick was looking for him to bite, as now he has the power to make an all-time great diss track humiliating and dismantling Drake for some of the creepy things he's done over the years. So with things like this, I think in due time, we are going to see Kendrick Lamar just obliterate Drake and win this battle that's been over a decade in the making, and as on some level, Drake is seeing that this could very well happen too. The only plan of action he can take right now is to troll and taunt Kendrick in an attempt to turn the tides of what people think and also how K-Dot is operating against him, but I don't think any of this will faze Kendrick or change his plan one bit, and if this is the case, it's looking like after a valiant fight, ultimately Drake is going to end up losing the most publicized beef of his entire career. So let me know, do you think despite all Drake's tactical efforts, Kendrick Lamar already has him, or do you think Drake has a chance of still winning this beef? Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to see my in-depth breakdown on all of the disses Drake threw out on push-ups and how they affect each artist who got dissed, check out the suggested video.